What's good, beautiful people? It's your main man, Big G, here on Industry Talk, and welcome to Primetime Pod, the hottest information resource outlet for all things entertainment, breaking news, celebrity interviews, and the hot topics of the day. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms, our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, you name it, we're on it. Just Google us. Boss Talk Podcast 101 Primetime.
And he got prime time vibe. Make sure you check it
How? Why the fuck you think he missing? You say that.
And second bill a whole lot.
Now I'm not trying to get a little messy with you.
Time is money.
They go trap.
What's good, beautiful people? What's good? And what's going on, my brother, Mr. Carlos Parks? And welcome.
What's
To
happening?
Industry Talk, man. Welcome to Industry Talk. Can you hear me good on your end?
Yes, sir. I can hear you fine.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. How's it going over there in Jamestown, North Carolina right now?
Man, all is well, man. All is well. Business as usual. For those who don't know, Jamestown is just a suburb of Greensboro, so I'm in the Triad area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we're gonna get into it, man, because you have a real intense. Let me say that you have a real intense story, a great testimony. From bricks to books is kind of a cliche statement, but it's true to form when it comes to you and the things that you've gone through. You were born in Goldsburg, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Goldsboro. Yes, sir.
You were raised in the streets of Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, because it's if you don't know about Virginia, it ain't easy now. And
Nah.
Lynchburg is one of them places.
Yeah, nah.
Okay. So let's get into it, man, because you've done. I don't want to give them a laundry list of everything because you've accomplished so much. From what I would consider and what you are dubbed as a professional problem solver. You got your real estate brokerage business going on, Versatile Development Group.
Yep.
So let's get into a couple of things, man, because we're connected through our good friend Fred Ricky Ross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so much like Rick, you've gone through some of the ups and downs of what men go through in their life trying to figure some things out. Now, you found out at an early age, based on one of your TED talks, that selling drugs was a lucrative thing, right?
Yeah.
Coming up, wanting nice clothes, wanting all of the, and I'm not trying to typecast. I'm just saying based on what you've gone through. Give us a little bit of a background about who Carlos Parks is, um, your background about where you're from, and present day. We're gonna move into it present day.
Okay.
What you got going on. So let's start with the beginning. Let's
All right.
let's start
So
at
let's
the top.
all right, first of all, I like to consider myself, and as I consider most individuals who come from the streets, who come from the 80s crack epidemic, we're like the offspring of Freeway Ricky Ross, right? So that's why we hold Rick to such high esteem, is because he's the poster child for crack, right?
Right.
And ironically, right, we wouldn't have gone down that path had it not been for Rick. So I'll start from the beginning because I wasn't always in the streets. I wasn't always a drug dealer. I started out,
Right.
I was a regular kid. I was a good kid, man. I grew up. I'm the oldest of I guess with my mother. I have one little sister, and with my father, I have two more little sisters. And I'm the big brother, man. I'm the quintessential overprotective big brother. That was me. And in my hood, I grew up in a place called Yorktown. It was a bunch of little kids, and I just happened to be the oldest. So I was like the big brother to all of the little kids in Yorktown. I looked after everybody. I was like their protector and their example. So that's just always been my role. And when I started selling drugs, I kind of brought along some of my guys with me. Like, look, this is what we doing, and it was up from there or down, however you want to look at it, right?
Right.
With
Well,
every
hold on a second. Hold on a second, Carlos. Before we step into that part of it, all right, you
yeah,
bringing in the crew and stepping off into it because you said, mom, dad, were both of them in the household, or you just living with
no,
mom, you just living with dad? What was going on?
no, No, my father and my mother separated when we lived in California. Um, my father got incarcerated. He got locked up for selling weed in the military. And while he was in the brig, mom bounced and brought us back to North Carolina. And
Okay.
this was at the age of 4.
So how was that living in a single parent household? And of course, you knew who
Man,
your father was. So how
yeah,
was that transition? How did
it
that
was
weigh on
different.
you?
It was different.
Okay.
My father was my superhero. I've always been a daddy's boy, man. So I was always my father's son. I wasn't a mama's boy, right? So I kind of resented my mother for leaving my dad, even though I was young. Um, it just for like years, like I love my father. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of men in our communities, man. Like we love our fathers. So I love my dad. My dad could do no wrong in my eyes, and it was unfortunate. I didn't like it, but my mother moved us to Virginia. My whole family's in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Goldsboro, Seven Springs, Kinston, that area, right? And
Okay.
yeah, my mother moved us to Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, and we had no family there. So I moved there in elementary school, first grade, and I had absolutely no family. And that was what my upbringing was: me by myself and my little sister, and no family. So we formed a family
So so you say you didn't have any family there,
there.
and what was the time frame? Give me the year.
83, 80. I
Okay.
was no,
So
no, no, before 83. 83, I was 10. I moved there when I was like 6 or 7, maybe 7 years
okay.
old. Yeah.
That's even better. That's even better. So 6 and 7,
Okay.
you beginning to realize things. You know that there's a break, there's a disconnect. Dad's out of your life, your superheroes out of your life. Mom's moved you to an area that you don't know anybody, no family, no nothing. Um, what was that like? Did mom have consistent work? Was it a struggle? How did that pan out?
Oh, it was a struggle, but my mother always worked. Mom's was a hustler,
Okay,
right? So
okay,
yeah, my mother always worked. Not to say that we weren't on, assistance, right? I was
right,
one of the kids that had to go to the store and spend food stamps and stuff, right? We had the
right.
powdered
We're in the
milk.
same boat. I mean, don't make it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
in the
yeah,
same
yeah.
boat
So
around that time frame.
exactly,
Poverty was thick through our time. You know what I'm saying? So that's
exactly,
just real.
exactly.
We all don't we don't know what the EBT card is. We don't even know what that little book is with them paper with them.
Yeah, yeah. We had the book, man. It was like Monopoly money. Yeah, so that was me. And I would go to the
Okay.
store and stand and wait for everybody else to finish before I got up there and spent them stamps, right? I would try to
Yes,
try to
indeed.
play back. But
Yes,
yeah, that was
indeed.
that was
Yes,
I was
indeed.
our upbringing. But we were happy, man. Like kids in the hood were happy. So
Right.
we didn't realize how we had it because we had nothing to compare it to. Everybody was in the same situation. Where I grew up at, we had people who paid $1 rent, and we had people who paid $200, $100 rent. It was
Right.
based on your income, So
Right.
if the word got out that your mother ain't paid with $1 rent a month because she ain't work, we might joan on you, or crack on you back then, But like, my
Yeah.
mother kept a job. My mother kept 2 jobs. My mother kept two
Right.
jobs, man. So
Okay.
yeah,
So living in that environment, growing up in that environment, and you already said this, you didn't recognize that you were a kid, so it's not like you didn't know any better. And life was life. But then as you got older and you started to see the nice cars, you started to see the kids with the nice shoes. I think in that time it might have been Converse or New Balance might have been out or whatever the case may be, because Nike wasn't real big back then. Um,
nah.
but you see the fresh gear and you're seeing things on television and you're wanting those things. And so you say you made that transition. What made you make that transition from, okay, I know my mom is busting her ass. She working 2 jobs to keep a roof over our head and make sure that we eat every day. What pushed you into the lane where you made a transition into becoming a freelance pharmaceutical agent on the street?
All right, so my story isn't like most, right? So I was the good
Okay.
kid, and everybody, all my homies were hustling. By the time we went in middle school, is when crack hit. I'm in Virginia,
Right.
so crack filtered down from New York, right?
Right.
So we would have New York guys coming down, and they would bring in drugs, and they would just put everybody on around the city, or it came down from DC. So Virginia,
Okay.
where I'm at, we were like considered like a baby DC. DC dudes would come down, and I still didn't get into it in eighth grade. When my homies started hustling in eighth grade, now mind you, eighth grade, my friends were coming to school with big wads of money and stuff, right? So I wouldn't get into it. The peer pressure ain't get me. What got me was when I got to ninth grade and I had a girlfriend. We went to a little party or whatever, and this big time drug dealer came in, and my girlfriend's her best friend said, "Crystal, there go your boyfriend." And the guy, and I'm looking like, she called that boy my girl. This is my girl. You know what I'm saying? She called her
Right.
boyfriend.
This your girl, but this is his girl.
Yeah. So that
Okay.
made me
Yeah.
like I'm young. I'm in ninth grade, so I got a super immature mind, right? And
Mhm.
that made me look at this dude like competition. And I'm looking at him like this dude got gold jewelry on. He from DC. He got a green Z in the parking lot. Like everybody knowing. I'm just watching like everybody speaking to the dude. I think he had just come home from prison or whatever. I don't know, but he was a grown man, you know. And
Right.
at that moment, I felt intimidated and super insecure about myself because I was working. You know, we started working when we were in ninth grade, so I was working a job, and I hadn't even gotten a check yet. My girl was working. We were working at the plaza, and it was at that moment that I made my mind up that this dude not gonna steal my girl because he flyer than me, because he got more than me. You know, and I told my homeboys, I said, man, when we get our check, it was two of my homeboys, my homeboy Bones and Ronnie. I said, man, when we get our check, we going to buy $100 block. And I had learned what $100 block was. It was you buy, I guess it was a gram back
Get
then,
you a
right?
little slab and break it
Yeah,
down. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
You,
And
you
flip
take it,
that.
you
I
cut
got
up,
you.
and you make more. So
Yeah.
back
Right.
then in the 80s, you know, you cut $100 block up and you're gonna make $300, you know, or
Right.
close, you know. So I did the math quick. Like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
it takes me 2 weeks to make 200, right? So $100 of my 200, I'm gonna we went to go flip, and that's how I
Okay.
got in
So
the
hold
game.
on. So hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Because I got to get this right. It wasn't that you were in an impoverished situation. You didn't want to be faced with the embarrassment of not having a nice car, not having the fancy clothes, all the aesthetics of the dope dealer to impress the ladies. It had nothing to do with shit. I'm broke. I ain't got no money. I'm destitute. This is my last. I got to figure this out. You were more of the different line of okay, the hustle. You know what I'm saying? I got to get into this for the riches. I got to get into this for the flash side of it. Yes? No? Talk to
I
me.
got in it for my girl.
Well, your
I
girl, yeah,
want
but you were trying to impress your girl. You ain't want to lose
Oh
your
yeah,
girl.
yeah. I wanted to impress my girl. I didn't want my girl looking at another man, right? So I
Okay.
felt like I couldn't compete with him financially, you know. So I
Right.
wanted to put myself in a position where I could. So when I got
Okay.
out there, when I started hustling, my goal was to be the best drug dealer in my city, to be the most known dude in my city, and to
Mm-hmm.
basically surpass him, this guy, right? His name was
This one.
Stinky
Yeah,
Dick.
okay.
Yeah, we called him Stinky Dick, but that was my goal, man. That was my goal, man.
Okay.
And you know, like that's
Hmm.
why I say my story isn't like most other people. And most people, it's
Right.
not about being hungry. Our parents take care of us. We eat. We don't
Right.
eat as well as they do on the other side.
Hmm.
You feel what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So yeah, like as I grew in the game, it became more of a you know, I started seeing the other side where I went to school. Like I didn't really know how. I didn't have a lot of white friends, right? So I never went to their houses. I didn't know how they
Right.
lived. You know, I didn't,
Okay.
I knew it was
Yeah.
different.
Well, let's back up. Let's back up because I gotta dissect this story,
Okay.
and you saying, hey man, I'll let it out. I mean, I'm gonna be transparent about all of this because
Yeah.
and yes, everybody's story isn't the same, but at the same time, it's not like you can just go run up to somebody and say, "Man, I got $100. I need a slab." You know what I'm saying? You got to know somebody. You got to be connected with somebody in the hood, in the street,
Yeah,
that's willing to sit there and take that risk with some youngsters, whether they getting it out there or not. Because most of the time they starting out as runners, they starting out as watchers. They're not really, you know what I'm saying, pushing the work like that on the
yeah,
block. You know what I mean? Running down cars and sitting there. You know how the system works.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
how do you just actively make a decision? You go grab two of your partners, be like, look, man, we're gonna put this money in and then we're gonna go flip this because something had to go wrong. I don't think that there's just a perfect situation where everybody just like, okay, I'm gonna start working this dope and it just works out magically.
Oh no, oh no, no. There,
Okay,
there were
okay, okay.
problems. So my first place I hustled was a place in the city called White Rock, right? And at the
Okay,
time
okay.
in the 80s, White Rock was booming. They had like a little grill, it was like a strip, and you'll just see a bunch of dudes from New York down there. You seen the cats from White Rock, Ralph and all them, and you seen DC cats down there. It was live. I was in ninth grade.
Right.
I wasn't going down there. So what like you say, we knew somebody. I knew a
Okay.
young dude, two young dudes. They were younger than me, but they were fast. Like they
Okay.
were out there. You know what I'm saying? Like this at night. We done snuck out the house, and these young niggas out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we
They
called
balling.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
They
called
really
my
on the
homies.
street. Yeah.
I'm like, yo, go down there and buy us $100 block, right? And these, like I say, these guys were younger than me for by like a year. So they went down the hill and got the blocks for us because they knew
Okay.
everybody. Everybody knew them. You know,
Hmm.
it took me a while
Okay.
before I went down that hill. White Rock Hill was
Right.
wild. It was jumping.
Okay, now let's back a little bit because if you're
Yeah.
talking about New York and New York cats coming down, setting up shop, this, that, and the other, and I don't know how the scene was, but I knew how the New York scene was. They used to have tops, you know what I'm saying? Beige tops,
Yeah.
big pink tops, black
Yeah.
tops, you know what I'm saying? And that lets you know which borough you was actually working in or whether I ain't trying to let nothing about my story come out. I'm just saying I heard
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
some stuff
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
that. So are we still dealing with the same kind of stuff? I mean, are we
Yeah. See,
or
back then,
was it just huh?
back then we didn't have the valve hustlers. They did
You
have the
didn't have
valves,
Val Hustle?
but
Okay.
see, the
Okay.
guys who were coming to my city was selling weight. They didn't sell
Gotcha.
valve. We didn't. So
Gotcha.
we would keep all of our cut up in like a little crazy glue top or a chapstick top, something small that we
Mm-hmm.
could keep it in. So that was how
Right.
we sold it there. Now I
Okay.
have seen them come down with the valves, but we didn't
Yeah.
really do that around our way. The New York guys who
Mm.
came down my way, most of them were from the Bronx, and those Bronx
Gotcha.
cats, they were about their business. They knew how to get money, man. They just came down
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it was just smooth, man. All these dudes was from Webster Projects, Webster
Right.
Projects in the Bronx. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we had a bunch of New York guys. Lynchburg is not a big city, but you would have
Yeah.
thought it was. You know, the amount of drugs that
Okay.
were being moved there, and it was just a lot of money at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
like everybody was eating. It was a good,
So
good time.
so let's talk about this then. And you talking about the way it was coming in. So how do you make your transition? Because we speed bump past a little bit of stuff because we don't have to go through the whole hand to hand combat that you went through with
Yeah,
going from $100, you know what I'm saying, flipping it and doing what you got to do. When did you really jump into it heavy? Let's talk about
man.
that. When did you jump into it
Like
heavy?
I
When
say,
when
I'm
when
so
you
I'm
popped your
super.
first break, your first quarter? What talk to
Yeah,
me?
yeah. I'm super competitive. So I started as an athlete, and just that competitive nature. I
Yeah.
saw everybody else as competition, and I
Hmm.
was just trying to outdo all the other guys my age. But then there
Yeah.
was indictments. The indictments hit in in 90, I mean in probably like 90, right? I think
Okay.
90 or 91, my city was just hit with these big indictments, and it got all the big guys off the streets. So when all of these big guys, we call them big time, right? So you got big time drug dealers, and then you got small time. That was me. So when all these big time dudes got removed, that left the streets open. So all of us, the younger guys, we stepped into these positions. And me being super hungry, I was aggressive, and you know, these guys like me, these older guys like me, these New York guys. So I really met a group of New Jersey cats who changed the game for me. Some 5% of dudes came down, and I don't know who at my door. Oh, I forgot I had someone coming. Let me tell
Go
my
ahead, handle
wife.
your business. Handle your business.
I don't know. I got my wife is in the basement. I'll tell her to go let them people in. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
man.
I got a plumber coming over,
No,
man.
you know me, man. I don't mind. Handle your business. You know what I'm
In
saying?
the
I
middle
like
of an
good
interview.
conversation.
Hey, can you come let this plumber in? He at the door.
Oh, I'm not home.
Oh, you not here? Okay, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
All right.
Well.
Well, look, this is real life, G. You know this how we give me one
Well, that's what I'm
second,
saying.
man.
Go ahead, handle your business, man. Handle your
All right,
business.
give me 1 second.
And while we at this brief intermission, that'll give me an opportunity to let you know, be sure to tap in with my man Freeway Ricky Ross. Get the book, The Untold Autobiography, and the 21 Keys of Success, www.freewayrickyross.com. Book Rick in your city, touch base with Echo. If you need the phone number, if you want to reach out, give me a call, 808-225-9063. DM me. We can get Rick into your city. And we are back with Carlos Parks, and we was talking about making that transition from
Okay. All right.
one situation into the indictments coming into the city, and there was a vacuum, a power struggle, and of course you being real competitive, and now you are taking the mantle of making relationships, building the network, and becoming that guy. So talk to me.
So I stepped into the role. I was under a guy. It was a group of New Jersey cats came down, and they came and they changed my life because I learned about knowledge of self through them, but I learned about the hustle in a different way because he took me to New York. And when he took me
Okay.
to New York, I had never been to New York, G. So, you know, my
Right.
young self, I was in 12th grade by this time, right? And I think 11th or 12th grade, the first time I went to New York, and it changed my perspective on everything. So this was the
Okay.
first time I actually went into a weight spot. And for the East Coast, it's a lot different from the South, I know, in the West, right? On the East Coast in the 80s and the 90s, drugs were coming from New York, right? In my area. So I know in the South, further south, everything was coming up from Miami, right? And then if you were close to Texas, everything was coming out of Texas, and everything was coming out of Cali for the West Coast. So we got these different hubs. My hub was New York. And when I went there, it was like going to the Mecca of drugs. It was so much, so much coke was being sold in Washington Heights, where I was going, which is where all the Dominicans are at, that you could smell coke early in the morning being cooked in the streets. Like if you walk down the street, if you're from that, you can smell coke. It was just that much. There were weight spots in every building. Every building in Washington Heights, they were selling weight.
So
When I
you
say
walking
selling weight,
around, you ain't smelling nothing but ether.
nothing but ether. That's all you smell. I promise you, man.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say there
Mm-hmm.
was like it's like you're a customer there. So when you get there, they automatically recognize you because we stood out. We didn't look like New Yorkers. We didn't dress like New Yorkers. So when they see people from out of town, you got the Dominicans running up to you. Hey, Poppy, what's up, Poppy? I got you, Poppy. I got you, Poppy. They got all of them had calculator watches. I'll never forget this. Calculator watches were big at the time. It was like the newest electronic trend. And they all had these calculator watches, and they were telling you how much you get it per gram. And I'm watching all of this unfold, and I'm with Divine, and he's the guy. I'm just like the youngin' just watching. I watched everything, and we went into the weight spot after he selected one of these guys, and you go in, they're standing at the door. They got AKs or what's some Uzis. They standing at the door with Uzis, two of them on both sides to make sure they don't get robbed. You come and sit down. They come out with the big triple beam. Back then it was triple beams, and they dude to come out the back with the big black trash bag full of work, you know. Yeah. And he'd be like, "Oh, okay, Poppy, what you want, Poppy?" And I guess my guy was buying like a brick or two. You know what I'm saying? They would just put these cookies on there, man. It's cooked up already. You can buy cooked up or you can buy powder. Powder is more expensive, you know. So a lot of people come in, they would get ready rock already cooked up. You know, it's not cut hard, but it's ready for you. And that's what he got. And I experienced that, and it blew my mind. You know, I never seen that much coke in my life. It blew my mind, and that's when I just got super hungry. And not long after that, Divine got locked up. You know, my guy, the guy who I kind of emulated, he was like my big brother. Like he like I kind of like adopted his style and everything. I loved everything about the way this dude moved, everything about him. Like it was just like he was my guy. He was my guy, you know, and really it's I guess because I didn't have a big brother, you know, my father wasn't around. And in the streets, you know what they say, in order to be a man, you got to see a man, right? So this was the first man that I saw that I respected, man. Like he was just like he was the world to me. And then when he got locked up, you know, it was just somebody got to step in. So,
Okay, so once you made that transition, you stepped in. Okay,
mhm.
are you making the trips to New York? Are you graduated from high school at this point? Are you still in
I'm
high
I'm
school, or
still
what's
I'm
going on?
still in high school, and I
Hmm.
took Divine's apartment. Divine had an apartment. He left me that because he was gone, and then I was start hustling with this girl named Hope, and she ended up leaving, and she left me another apartment. So now I'm a senior in high school with two cribs. You know what I'm saying? So I start hustling out of both of them, and I could put somebody in one of the other one. Back then, this one we had beepers. You know, the beepers was jumping. You know, and I just started to just slowly bubble, man, because I had my spots, I had a name, and from that, you know, I think that's when a drought hit. There was a big drought in 92, 91. And when that drought hit is when I decided I'm going to New York. So I went by myself, me and a crackhead I paid to take me up there, you know, and
Okay.
that's when Carlos became Cap. That's when I
Okay.
became.
So you make the trip to New York.
Mhm.
You got somebody to take you up there because you couldn't drive up there on your own.
Exactly.
Um, would you cop?
The first thing I took $5,000 and maybe 5 guns. Each gun I
Hmm.
got an ounce for each gun, and 5,000 got me 10 ounces. It
Okay.
was five
That,
hundred dollars an ounce back then, cooked
yeah,
up.
that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I finished that in
In terms
like
of
2 days. 2 days
right.
later, I was back up there. You know,
Okay.
that quick.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So you flipping. And then let's transition because I don't want to take away from your books. I don't want to take away from your story because you got 10 steps to help one stay out of prison, right?
yeah.
And how I went from inmate to a productive citizen. You do public speaking and the whole
This is
nine
this is
yards. So
my
I'll
main book though, right here though. G,
talk to me.
from selling
Talk to
bricks
me.
to selling bricks
Yeah, from selling bricks to selling
to
bricks, and
selling bricks.
that's from the dope game into the real estate game, Versatile
Exactly.
Development Group, and
Yeah.
we'll get into that. So I want everybody to go grab that book. Put that back up again. Put the
It's
book back up again.
it's on
Yeah,
Amazon. It's called From Selling Bricks to Selling Bricks. A
from
story
selling
of
bricks to
redemption.
selling bricks. Hey
Yep, from
man, you
selling
got to
bricks
go grab
on
this book.
Amazon.
Um, I am not going to let him just tell you the whole life story, because, like I say, it's intense, and the things that you've gone through. But and that's why I'm letting you talk because a lot of people like, man, dude, why y'all talking? Because hell, you done already served time for this shit. They can't
Yeah.
sit there.
Oh yeah. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Statute
they can't sentence you. We sentence you for something that you already been
you've already
convicted to
done,
serve
and
time
not
for.
just that. The
Yeah.
statute of limitations is 7 years for anything but murder.
There you go. So,
Yeah.
it's all out the window. But at the same time, the story in itself is kind of parallel to what Rick did. Rick was an athlete. Rick was a tennis player. You were an athlete. You were very competitive. And both of you have that competitive drive about how you approach life and the things that you do. You're good with organizing people. And now you find yourself in a position to where you the big dog. You
Yeah.
cap. You that nigga in the street. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, you ain't walking around with a goddamn water pistol. I mean, you walking around with some heat at this point. You know what I'm saying? Because you know that hey, either my life's going to be taken or vice
Someone
versa.
else. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, because of the game that you're in, because of the line of work that you're in. And I mean, it wouldn't be that way if you're working at McDonald's or if you're working at the fucking library. You
yeah.
knowing damn well that at any given moment, this shit could really go down. So, given that, how could you be in the state of mind? What put you in the state of mind to be on point at all times prior and like I say before getting arrested? Because we're gonna talk about your prison sentence and what you had to turn into while you were in prison as well.
Well, I got stabbed prior to being incarcerated. I
Okay.
got stabbed when I was like 16. No,
Uh huh.
17. 17 years old, I got stabbed. And you know, like I was already on point, but I just
Yeah.
wasn't. I didn't realize it was that serious. You know, I was young. I got to fighting with a older cat. It was a big fight. It was a bunch of us fighting, and the guy put
Yeah.
the knife in my back, and you know, that was an eye opener for me. At that point, my mother sent me to go live with my father in Goldsboro,
Okay.
North Carolina. So that's my first time living with my dad since I was 4. And at the time
Right.
I was 17, my father was remarried. I had 2 little sisters, and I was going back to Goldsboro. Like no one knew me, you know, like they all knew me as Carlos from Virginia. They didn't realize I was from there. So when I went to
Right.
Goldsboro High, I was like a new person, you know, nobody
Yeah.
knew me. Family members,
Yeah.
nobody knew me. So
Yeah.
you know, it was just it
So
was
mom,
different.
so mom was trying to save your life.
Yeah,
Mom
yeah,
sent your ass to go live with pops.
exactly.
Pops got a new life going on. You got your two sisters going in the situation, but
Yeah,
you coming back into a brand new environment. They not knowing that you're from there. This is hometown, but I'm a different individual. You know what I'm saying? My
yeah.
dad's already been to prison for selling weed or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Got discharged from the military, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so you've already got that hustle mentality. How did dad accept the fact that, hey man, my son's out here selling dope?
He didn't. So my father he was in church. Now my father's a big dude like me, but
Okay,
bigger, you know, like big
right.
old strong. So when I went to my dad's house, I ain't break no laws. When I was under my when I was under my
He wasn't
dad's
going for
roof,
that shit. He wasn't
yeah,
going.
it
Okay,
was straight line. It was different. When I was with my dad, I didn't sell any drugs. I was at school and I was watching all the dudes in my school like hustling and all that, and I'm looking at them like they just don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to show them, but I'm not going.
right.
I'm not trying my father. You know, I didn't try my father not once. You know,
Okay.
and I convinced my father to let me go back and see my mother for Christmas break, and when he did, I never went back. I never went back.
Ah,
I went
okay,
back to
okay,
Lynchburg and I got back in the
okay.
streets, and that's when
Yeah.
I turned it up. And my mother, you know, that's when I got my own apartments. Divine. That's when the Divine and the Hope situation that happened after I had come back from North Carolina, from
Okay.
Goldsboro.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. So
So let's fast forward a little bit because I want to let everybody know um what you got sentenced for and
okay,
what
all right,
kind of time
I
you
got
had
you.
to serve and
All
why.
right,
And of course this is federal. So
yeah,
you don't just happenstance or slip into a federal situation or federal
yeah,
indictment. You got
yeah,
to earn enough points to get your ass recognized to be like, okay, we need to pay attention to this dude. It's a full out investigation and we coming at you. So
yeah.
give me the rundown on that. This ain't
So,
this ain't
so
no state shit. This ain't
I
no
got you.
state county shit. Yeah.
I became like most wanted in my city because
Hmm.
I was in high school. Teachers couldn't tell me anything. They can't tell me take this to your mother. I'm like I live by myself. You know, like you can. You know. So anyway, the police wanted me, and I ended up getting arrested as soon as I turned 18. I got arrested. I got indicted for selling to an undercover. I got boot camp. All right. So my first charge, I got boot camp, and that just made me more militant than I was. I came home, I was militant, I was cut up like a diamond. And I was just, you know, I had no breaks, man. I ended up getting back in the game and
So they sent you to the Gladiator Academy. You come back home.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I
Uh-huh.
came home
Mhm.
and I just was a different type of animal. And this is around the
Right.
time I had my child. So when I had my child, my son's mother was from another city in North Carolina. and she took me down there, and I started hustling down there in 1994. And in 1995, my son was born. I got locked up right after my son was born. So I was down there where my son's mother was from for 4 months. 4 months I spent there in 94 and 95. And I got indicted in 1998 for the drugs that I sold down there in 1995.
Okay.
I got
Gotcha.
indicted in 1998 for I was there 4 months. 4 months in Lenore, Morganton, Hickory, Statesville area, North Carolina, got me 30 years in prison. I couldn't believe it. When they told me that I had people were down there who were telling on me or whatever, I wasn't even really making a lot of noise down there. I was making, but I mean, that's the game, right? And they were about to indict me in Virginia. North Carolina indicted me first and saved my life. I would have got a life sentence in Virginia without a doubt. I got 30 years in North Carolina because it was only 4 months of activity. So they saved me by indicting me before Virginia could indict me, because I wouldn't have came home in Virginia. I wouldn't have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, being that you got indicted in the area that you got indicted in for a crime that was committed back in '95, you're facing time in '98. Where did you have to go sit down at? Which federal institution did you go sit down at, or did you get housed in a uh, um, a state facility with federal detention?
No, I was in a state facility doing a state charge for a gun when the feds came and indicted me. The feds came and
Mm.
indicted me. I got locked up in 98 for a
Okay.
gun charge in Goldsboro. I got caught with a gun in a hotel room. And during
Mm.
that time, the feds indicted me for what I did in 95. And they sentenced me to 30 years. And I went to 9 different prisons. I started in Beckley, West Virginia, but there were 4 of the 15 guys who testified on me. There were 4 of them there. So they got me off the yard the next day, and shipped me to a place called Cumberland, Maryland. Cumberland, Maryland, I was there with, a lot of mobsters. Rayful Edmonds' brother was there, Manji, Leedy. It was a lot of big guys from the streets, right? They were at Cumberland. Cumberland was sweet. We had microwaves. We had oysters, clams. You could buy all these things on commissary. They called it Camp Fed back then in the 90s, right? Because it was sweet. It's not like that anymore. We had vending machines on the rec yard, but you could get stabbed in a minute. It was sweet, but you could get stabbed in the lunch line. You get stabbed at the library. Like they were
Right.
putting in a lot of work there. It was a serious place. It was like a mini gladiator school. It wasn't the pen, but it wasn't far from it. It was a nice step down, and I went from there. I
Okay.
went to prison.
So given that, and you just said it, anything subject to go down,
Yeah.
in lunch line, out on the yard. I mean, hell, even in the dormitory. Um, Given that situation, were there any organizations that you had joined? Because you didn't mention it prior to. You didn't say that you were rolling with a gang in the streets. It was just you and your partners, so it's not like there were any gang affiliations that I'm aware of. Is there anything that you had to get involved with for your safety while you were inside? Did
No,
you
no,
become okay?
no affiliations. Never been a part of a gang. The only thing I
Right.
was ever affiliated with and still am is the Nation of Gods and Earths, 5%.
Okay.
Um, you know,
Gotcha.
which is not a gang.
Yeah, I
But
understand. Yeah, I understand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, I never had any affiliations. I was fighting my case. I had a 30 piece, and I had a bunch of guys in my ear telling me, "Youngin, if you ever want to go home, you need to get in the law library." So I did
Okay.
that, and I fought. I fought for years and years, and it took me a long time to finally win. But federal prison, man. I was like I say, I've always been a leader. So I was always the leader of my car, right, or my group, or like of my race at some point. I learned
Right.
Spanish. I was bilingual in there, so I was always the go between the blacks and the Mexicans, right? Whenever there was an issue, Carlos, hey Carlos, Carlos, Carlos. You know, the Mexicans call me Carlos, the blacks call me Cap. But I ended up, you know, being what they call a speaker. And at an institution, you have someone who speaks for your car, right? And your car is wherever city you from. Like Mississippi will have a car. You have the Mississippi car, Alabama car, the Texas car, California car. You have a Crip car, Blood car, GD car. Everybody got a car, and every car has a driver. The person who drives the car is called the shot caller or the speaker, right? So I was that for my city, or not my city, but my state, because it's by states, right? You know, like and then when I was in Louisiana, I was that for my race. So you have a speaker for the blacks, you have a speaker for the whites, you have a speaker for the natives, you have a speaker for the Mexicans. So whenever there's an issue between anybody from these groups, the speakers come together and they sort it out. That way you don't have 100 Mexicans and 100 blacks having a meeting. You just have one Mexican and one black meeting, but they speak for the majority, for the car. So
Okay, so how often does that bond and that tie really hold, really fare over when it comes to emotions and men, and testosterone, you know, flying through the air, and the nigga really not giving a damn about, hey man, fuck that. He did
nah,
X, Y, Z. He disrespected me. It's a violation. There's gonna be a demonstration regardless. Or
it
is
don't
it, hey
happen.
man,
It don't happen. So
okay,
we govern ourselves. The feds is a lot different than the states. In the
okay,
feds, we govern ourselves, right? So
hmm,
if everything is run smoothly, you don't have a car crash. A car crash is when
gotcha.
you have something like DC versus Mississippi, or what
Hmm.
happened was DC did have a riot with Memphis, right? And sometimes you can't sort it out with the speakers. Sometimes you got a car where they don't have a lot of understanding, and they don't really have a lot of control. If your car is run tight, that means everybody respects the position and the word of the speaker or the shot caller, right? But if your car is not tight, it's not a good look. And in those situations, cars end up crashing. But in the feds, if someone from my car, I ran into this guy, like we had a guy from Virginia who wouldn't leave the Mexican TV alone. So the Mexicans would come to me, and the black guys from other cars would come to me. Hey, Cap, your little homie keep touching the Mexican TV. That can lead to a race war on the yard. So
Right,
if
it
we
becomes an
don't
issue.
deal with it ourselves, right, it can
Hmm.
escalate. So now we got all the other black guys and the other black speakers are telling me, hey, you need to straighten your little homie. What happens if I don't straighten my little homie? My whole car can get straightened. So that's why in the feds it's different. It's different, man. Like it's a lot of order, man, because those not following those rules, and they can cost you your life.
And then how many years did you walk down?
17. I had 30.
17 years.
I did
Right.
17 years. I had a 30 piece, but I won my appeal 12 years into my sentence. So in 2010, I won my appeal. So when I won my appeal, it reduced my sentence from 30 years to 20 years. I had been filing a 2255 ineffective assistance of counsel since I had been in. I just kept getting shot down, but I kept finding other issues to go back in under. And I finally won. Um, and when I found out I was short, I didn't want to have anything to do with the prison politics at that point because I didn't want to run my time up.
You want to run? Okay. So now
Yeah.
this is more of a personal question.
Okay.
Was um Carlia or Carlos born at that time? Was Trey,
No,
were any of
no,
them
no.
born
My
at that time?
oldest son, yeah, no, my oldest son, he's 29 now. So he was
Okay.
3 when I went to prison. He was 20 when I came home.
Okay.
But
So
and
how
so I missed
how
out.
did that how did that impact him?
Oh man. Um,
Yeah, talk
so
to us
so
about it
so
now.
so he would have to really speak for that. But from what he's told me, like we didn't have the best relationship when I came home, right?
Okay.
Because he was with his mother, and I don't know what his mother was feeding him, as far as here, right? But he kind of felt like I left him, and I felt like
Mhm.
I was taken from him. And
Mhm.
And I was always like, I tried to explain to my son, like I could have been here for you, but for me to be here with you, I had to tell on somebody else, right? I would have had to put somebody else in the position I was in, and I couldn't do that. I said, but because of that, you grew up with a father whose name you could respect. You don't have to worry about holding your head low when you say my name, right? And I thought I was doing my son a favor by keeping my name clean because we have the same name. His name is Carlos II, but he doesn't see things like I see them, and I can't make him understand it. So because of that, we had our differences. We went through things, right? We still do, like he's 29, he has 5 kids, and and I love my
So
son
let
to
me,
death.
yeah. So let's touch on that because your son has a valid point, and we're gonna try to. I'm not trying to make the point, but I want to bring to the table things that because your son is a civilian,
Yeah,
you can't expect him to understand a street code or a street ethic when he didn't grow up in that environment. And so now you're speaking to me about what your son is experiencing, knowing that you had over 15 plus niggas on your indictment papers, Carlos.
yeah,
So
yeah.
where's the integrity? Where's the code? Where's the when it comes to, hey man, this ain't it. You got goddamn rats coming out the woodwork, niggas wearing wires trying to set you up. You end up going to you sell it to an undercover, not knowing, but you had to make that connection through somebody. Ain't like you just on the street selling to a nigga, you selling some work, some heavy weight. So somebody in the camp turned you on to this nigga.
Well, no. So I didn't have any drugs on my federal indictment. I just had somebody saying that I sold
They
them
were just
drugs.
talking on you.
Yeah, they were just I got sentenced during an era of what they call ghost dope. They didn't even
Come
need
on.
drugs. Yeah, so I've
Come
never been
on.
caught with drugs in my life, so it was
Stop,
just ghost
man.
dope.
Stop. Come on, man. So they just on the niggas weird.
Yeah. It started out with 3 people. You got to think. I was
Yeah, it's a
indicted in
conspiracy. Yeah, I understand.
yeah,
I get
conspiracy
it.
doesn't require drugs.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, I had a conspiracy charge.
Okay. So now dealing with that, they kicked the door in at the hotel and you got caught with the gun, right? How did that situation evolve? Because I'm trying to
With
see
the
how you got
hotel,
damn with the gun. Yeah, at the hotel. Yeah.
oh,
That led to everything that we're talking
somebody,
about.
somebody told that I had drugs, so the police came and but that had nothing to do with my federal indictment.
Right. Right.
I didn't have any drugs
That
in the.
kind of like, but the
Now
gun charge in
I
itself
was
kind of
doing that time. I had already got I
okay.
got a year for the gun. I got a year for the gun.
Gotcha.
While I was
Okay.
serving that
Okay.
year, the feds found me because those guys in Lenore was saying my name and one of
Right.
my friends in Virginia. So it's man, listen, it's a long story about how my friend in Virginia, I got indicted. It was a guy in Virginia and 2 guys in North Carolina got me indicted. So by the time I went to trial, because I went to trial, they have what they call jumping on your case, right? A bunch of guys jumped on my case who I didn't even know. They just saw
Right.
me as an opportunity for them
You get
to
their
get
time
time
reduced.
credit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
contacted the prosecutors and told the prosecutors, hey, that guy Cap from Virginia, I bought a key from him. And then this other guy, so all of these guys, out of the 15 guys who told on me, I didn't know 5 of them, had never seen me in my life, right? But they
Right.
saw me as an opportunity. That's how it works. And prosecutors don't care as long as they
No, they
have the
don't. They gonna
evidence they
stack that
need
file. Yeah. They gonna
to
stack that
convict you,
file.
right? So that's all
Mm.
they care about is conviction. And me, I know a lot of guys wouldn't have done what I did, right? But I feel like I'm built different, right? And there are a lot of
Okay.
guys who did. So for those guys
Right.
who went to trial, they will understand where I'm coming from, right? But then
No, I
there's a lot
get
of
you.
guys. There's a lot of guys who
Well,
copped out. I'm not knocking
mm,
anybody who copped out, right? I'm
mhm,
knocking
mhm.
anybody who copped out and spit. If you told on
Right.
somebody, yeah, like if you want to take the plea, but you shouldn't be telling on this other man and putting him in the position you in because you don't want to do your time. Like you got
That's right.
caught. You got
I
caught.
got you.
Yeah,
I'm
do your time,
100%.
bro.
I'm 100% with you, Los.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. But we talking about your son being how young he was. You going through the same damn thing. Think about it.
Yeah.
You went
Yeah.
through the same cycle, and now your son is being faced or presented with this, and he could have taken a bad turn. I'm not saying that you took a bad turn at all. What I'm saying is you went through your life, right?
No, I took a bad
And
turn. I took a bad turn.
okay,
I
okay.
definitely did. Yeah, I took a bad
So
turn.
so now that's the image that that Junior sees. You know what I'm saying? Carlos the second, that's what he sees. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, this is what happened. So emotionally, you got to see from his standpoint of it. Because I asked you
I
that
do.
question. Because I
I
just want
do.
to like, how would your son feel? How did he feel? And what do you think that impacted? Because you were his superhero. Think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know what
So
I'm saying?
so so without a doubt, right? My
Yeah.
son had to suffer. Like so
Right.
anybody who
Okay.
capitalized off of me being quiet, they owe my
Yeah.
son, right? Because
Okay.
it's a lot of people that could have been in there with me who weren't,
Right.
and
Right.
they owe my son. And a lot of them
Yeah.
tried to step up and help my son's mother, but she didn't want help from anybody, right? So
I got you.
so my son did grow up without things that he didn't have to be without. That was a conscious decision on someone else, right? But
Mm.
we went through that. We hopefully, we've grown a lot. It's 9 years I've been home. He came home.
Right.
I convinced him to go into the military. I recently got him to get his CDL license, right? So I've been there for my son every step of the way since I've come home. That's not going to
That's what's up.
change me not being there as he was a child. And
That's
I
right.
had to tell him I can't erase that, Carlos. I can work on us going forward.
Mhm.
But as far as me missing out on all of your childhood, I can't change that.
Okay.
All I can do is try to work through it, and that's where we at now. That's where we at now.
Okay. So let's talk about where we at now. 9 years out of a fucked up situation, because I don't view prison in no way, shape, form, or fashion as being a good
Horrible.
deal.
Yeah,
Um,
horrible.
so 9 years out of prison.
Yeah.
Um, the first thing that Carlos Parks did when he touched down on free Earth, when he got out, touched down, what's the first thing you did?
It wasn't go find a girl. It was so a lot
I'm
of
telling you, I need
guys.
to know. I want to
Oh,
know
it
what's the
wasn't
first thing
that.
you did.
No, the first thing
Okay.
I did was my mother, my sister picked me up. My
Right.
sister and my mother, they picked me up from federal prison.
Right.
They took me to somewhere. My father was there.
You
So
just
the
have to
first
go to
day
the
home,
halfway house. You flat timed everything.
you
Well,
said
no,
what?
you got 17 years and then no probation, no nothing.
Yeah. But they picked me up and took me to the halfway house.
Halfway house. Okay.
Yeah, they picked me up in Richmond, Virginia, in Petersburg, and they took me to the halfway house in Durham, North Carolina. So the
Okay.
first place I went when I came home was Durham. The first people I saw was my sister, my mother, and my father, my family, right? So
Gotcha.
I was focused. I wasn't so for my first 30 days, I abstained from female contact. I did not want to deal with any girls. I wanted to focus on what I felt like was my first three priorities: getting a bank account, getting a driver's license, and getting a job, right? So these
Okay.
were my three priorities, and I had to have those three things in place before I could, enjoy the comforts of a woman, and that's what I did.
Right.
So for 30
Okay.
days, I abstained because I
Okay.
felt
So you
like I
work.
was
So you
disciplined.
work those building blocks. You work those building blocks. Okay.
Hmm.
Are you still in the halfway house at this time? And how long did you actually have to stay in the halfway house before you made your transition back into regular society?
I think I was in the halfway house 2 weeks, man. I wasn't there long
2 weeks.
because I
Right.
got a job fast. And
You
as
got a
soon as
job, so now you
yeah, I got
can.
a
Yeah.
job. I came home. I was a personal trainer. I got my certificate as a licensed. I mean, as a certified personal trainer, and I started a job fast because I was bilingual. And at the time, they
Okay.
needed a bilingual trainer. I learned Spanish while I was in, and
Right.
that was it, man. After that, every job I got, all of my first three employers were because I was bilingual. So
Okay.
and that was something that I behoove anyone take advantage of. Learn Spanish. You know, that's what I was told, and that's what I did, and it actually helped me in every facet of my life since my return.
Okay. So we're gonna step back a little bit because you say you spend a lot of time in the law library. You spend a lot of time in the library reading those law books, and just reading, taking and consuming knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, how? Because you didn't go in illiterate, you know what I'm saying? Much like in Rick's situation, Rick couldn't read, right? You had a formal education. You progressed through high school, the whole 9 yards. So um, you tapped into the law library. How important of a role did that play in your life in you actually succeeding to get out? Because did you write up your own writ for appeal, or did you talk with the lawyers and say this is how we need to present this case, or what? How did that work out?
Man, I fought. I
Before
was
we,
a pro
before
se
before we slingshot into the rest of the situation in your story.
All right. So I was a pro se litigant, which means you're fighting on your own. I didn't have an attorney.
Okay.
So I had to learn everything myself, but I was also helped. I paid jailhouse lawyers to help me, right? And the one
Mm-hmm.
who really came up with the argument that would eventually get me out was a guy named Jimmy from Baltimore. And he did it for a bag of coffee and a pack of cigarettes. And this guy had a life sentence, but he just fucked with me that much, right? That he said, "Man, listen, man, give me a bag of coffee and some cigarettes. I got you." And I
Right.
haven't been able to find Jimmy to this day. I don't know where he's at. I left him in Cumberland, Maryland, but I owe him a huge debt, right? But yeah, Jimmy got me out, man. Jimmy found the missing piece, man. He's the one who put me onto that ineffective assistance of counsel argument, and I rolled that all the way out the door until I was finally able to hire an attorney. My sister and my grandmother paid $10,000 to hire me an attorney, and that's how I came home.
Okay. So ineffective assistance of counsel prior to. So you had uh, a pro bono going in the first time.
I had a court-appointed attorney,
A
and
court
he was
appointed, yeah, court
trash.
appointed.
He was
Yeah.
trash, and he sold me up the river, basically. You know,
Right. Okay.
so that
So we,
that's
we, we that story happens all too often,
Oh,
too many
oh yeah,
times.
that's a
We
story that
yeah,
we hear a lot, right? And
yeah,
if you don't
yeah, yeah.
mind, being that you're talking about law, at some point I definitely want to segue into what I'm doing now with these two individuals who are fighting some unfair sentences. And I know
Let's talk about it right now. Let's talk about the two brothers you want to mention.
all right. So
Go
the
ahead.
two brothers
Go
I
ahead.
want to mention, is because I'm the director of communications for a television network now. It's called Fifth Sun TV, and I'm working on documentaries. And two of the documentaries I'm working on, one is about a guy named Rivera Peoples. He's out of Nashville, Tennessee, and he's serving life plus 100 years for murder he did not commit. When I heard his story, I couldn't believe it was real. Like his brother committed a murder and received 25 years. After that, they charged Rivera for criminal responsibility and gave him life plus 100 years for the same murder that his brother got 25 years for. Rivera wasn't
Oh,
there. He wasn't there. He had nothing to do with the murder. All he did was let his older brother use his car. And his older brother went and picked up two guys, and they committed an armed robbery, and they killed someone in the act of that robbery. And that's why Rivera's been locked up for 15 years for a murder he did not commit. And I'm telling his story. We're working on his story now, his documentary, because I feel like I can't do anything for this brother but get his story out there. So that's what I'm doing. And
and how
Rivera,
long has he been? How long has he been sitting down since that's happened?
15 years.
He's been
He's been
sitting down for
incarcerated. He's been
15 years now.
incarcerated 15 years, and he has life plus 100 years. His brother has 25 years. His brother pled guilty to the murder. He pled guilty, and he took a plea. And part of his plea, they were not to indict his brother for the murder, which they didn't indict his brother for the murder. They charged him with something completely different called what did I say? It was called criminal responsibility, meaning he was the reason that the murder took place.
So that criminal responsibility holds more weight than accessory after the fact.
I don't know. In Nashville, this is Nashville, Tennessee. And man, they do things there. They do what they want to do, and it's really hidden from the world. I want to expose it, sort of like what happened with Khalif Browder and how his documentary exposed Rikers Island. I want to do the same thing with Nashville, Tennessee. And then the other story is a story about a guy named Kenneth D'Angelo Thomas, right? They call him D-Lo, and he's out of Nashville as well. And he's incarcerated. He has a life sentence for murder he did not commit. And when I heard his story, not only did he not commit the murder, he's been incarcerated 22 years now, right? They found out last year he was able to hire another attorney, and they found out through his other attorney that there was a testimony given by Mr. Paul Talley. Mr. Paul Talley is the one who initially supplied the government with the information to convict Kenneth D'Angelo Thomas. Before he gave his statement to them saying that Kenneth D'Angelo Thomas committed the murder, he gave them a statement. And in the first statement, he stated that he knew who committed the murder, but he didn't know his name. He said he knew the individual, he knew his brother, and he knew his brother hung with D-Lo, right? And they asked him again, and he repeated this to them. They stopped. They said, okay, well, hold up. Let's come back. They stopped the recording. I read the transcripts myself. They stopped the recording, went away, did whatever they did. When they came back and started recording again, they started the interview again, and they asked him, hey, do you know who committed that murder? He said, yeah, it was D-Lo. So what happened with the first part, right? The first part disappeared for 21 years. And for 21 years, no one had ever seen it, ever heard it. They only found it when D-Lo was able to hire another attorney, and this new attorney went and got the evidence, and this was in the files. So now they have this, and this has been since last year. He's been fighting to get out on this wrongful conviction with this new evidence. The state of Tennessee, the city of Nashville, do not want to allow him to use this new evidence. They're saying he should have had that at trial. So they're trying to say he's procedurally time barred because he did not present that evidence at trial. How can he present the evidence at trial if the prosecutor hid it?
They didn't give it to the defense attorney.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is evidence he did not have access to, but you're trying to say he should have said something about this then. This is what we're working with. His documentary is almost done, almost ready for release. It's currently being edited by Fifth Sun TV, by Zach Shotted. He's working on it right now. One of the best editors in the game. And Dr. Monk will be doing the final editing, the final phase, and we're ready to go. We're ready to shop it around.
Okay. So I'm still trying to figure out through mission of discovery, they're supposed to turn over everything.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
How could that be misplaced? And if it is misplaced, or what kind of position would the prosecutor take at this point, for this not to be thrown out and have this man immediately released, just based on cause. So I'm trying to figure out, how are they going to try to whitewash this whole situation?
I don't know, but I'm not going to let them. So what they don't realize is that I've spoken with the prosecutor and recorded it. Okay. So they don't realize, and that's going to be in the documentary. The prosecutor is now a defense attorney in Nashville. Her name is Lisa Naylor. She doesn't even realize the trouble she's in because they didn't lose this testimony. They hid it. There's a difference. Right. So that's prosecutorial misconduct. So even if she is a defense attorney at this point, man, she's going to get it. She's going to get it, man. And she tried to, when she spoke to me for a while. She was really questioning me, trying to find out what evidence we had. But she threw booking. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is gonna be huge. The state of Tennessee, the city of Nashville will be responsible for taking this man 22 years. 22 years. And this was intentional. It wasn't a case of wrongful. I missed the point. The individual who testified against him, Mr. Paul Talley, he came back 12 years later in 2012, I think it was, and wrote an affidavit saying that he lied at testimony. He lied on Kenneth D'Angelo Thomas. Not only did he lie, they set a court date. He went on the stand and told them that he was coerced by the prosecutor's office on what to say. This was 10 years ago, and
This man
he's
still
still
living?
in there. He's still in there right now because the judge said, "I don't believe you."
No. What I'm asking is the guy that came and rescinded his statement. Is he still living?
Yeah, I just talked to him yesterday.
Okay. Well,
He,
that's a
he not
plus.
only is he still living, he's still fighting to get D'Lo out. He's
Okay,
writing a letter
good.
to the judge right now. He said I interviewed him yesterday for the documentary, and he said that,
Mhm.
man, this is something he couldn't live with it. He couldn't live with the
Right.
guilt. He said, man, I lied on this man, and now I'm trying to fix it, and they don't want to believe me. He said he won't leave it alone. Like, he's like, man, I know I'm wrong. And they
Because
were close friends.
you know what comes behind that though. You see,
No,
the state has to pay at that point. You see what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's lawsuits and everything that rep. It's not even reparations at that point. It's you've got to pay back everything plus emotional turmoil and everything under the sun that this man had to endure on the
Oh
false
yeah,
accusation.
yeah.
Yeah,
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So give me those two names again, so that we can start
Kenneth
rallying
Kenneth
with you
Kenneth
behind it.
D'Angelo Kenneth D'Angelo Thomas, aka D'Lo,
D-Lo.
and
Okay.
Rivera Peoples. Rivera
Okay.
Peoples.
For
And
rare
and
peoples.
they're
Okay.
both actively fighting to come home to their loved ones.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now, out of the halfway house, got your job, 2 weeks in, doing your thing, moving and shaking. Were you tempted to go back to hustling, slanging and banging?
Not at one, no, not one iota. I never thought that was an absolute not an option for me. Not an
Okay.
option. Yeah, not an
Good.
option.
Good. Oh, okay. So now that you've made that active decision, you took those 3 steps that you needed: bank account, job, and residence. Got a roof over your head. Wasn't thinking about no females. What was the next step? What did Carlos Parks do to get himself into the mindset of where you are present day, with real estate investing, with public speaking, being a life coach, being an inspiration for anyone that is willing to understand what you've gone through, your testimony, and say, hey, you know what? I can feed off of what he's going through and know, hey, I don't need to make that decision. I don't need to go in this direction. But hey, man, I can see all the positive and I love his story and I want to grow within what he's got going on. How did that happen? Talk to us.
I got married. That I mean
Talk to
that's
me, man.
simple.
Go ahead.
And
Go ahead
listen,
on.
listen.
Talk
I'm
to me.
I'm I'm gonna keep it a
You
buck,
need
man.
to
Like,
find
simply,
this.
I wanted to get married. I came
Gotcha.
home with the desire to get married. When I was in prison,
Okay.
you were in prison around all these swinging dicks, all these
Gotcha.
all this testosterone, right?
Yeah.
All you think about in there is a woman. That's
Right.
all you think about. And I never had my woman. Like, I had plenty of girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Right.
had plenty of girls. I wanted a wife. I came
Yeah.
home, like, a lot of people don't come home like that. Like, I wanted a wife. Every girl that I met after incarceration was interviewing to be my wife. That's how I looked at
Okay.
it. Right. I didn't
Okay.
want the short-term things. Like, every girl. So if it's a girl watching this right now and I was dealing with you at some point, yeah, I was lining you up. You know what I'm saying? I was
Right.
lining, I
Right.
was like, so when I got married, I found my wife, and Galen.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it
So do
short, but
make the cut.
I gotta tell this story, right? Because
Okay.
I was
Okay.
looking for my wife when I was incarcerated,
Hmm.
but I couldn't find her. I was asking about her, constantly asking people, man, you seen Mimi? What's up with Mimi? What Mimi? You know what I'm saying? Like, and we just had a brief encounter before, like, but it was enough. But for some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about her. And when I came home, everybody, oh man, she damn near married. She been with this dude for all this time and all this. And ironically, when I moved to Durham, North Carolina, I didn't know she lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. And she
Okay.
found me on, which they're like an hour apart. She found me on Facebook, and she shot me a message in Messenger, just said, "Hey, Mr. Parks." That was it. When I saw it and I went and I realized who it was, I already knew I found my wife,
So with.
and
Right.
she was in a
Right.
relationship.
Mhm.
And the guy was living in Tennessee, ironically, right? Back and forth. So I told her, I said, listen, I ain't trying to mess with nobody who in a relationship, but if you get that nigga out the way, you would never regret
Ain't
it.
that so?
You would never regret it, right? I didn't know that their situation was like on the rocks anyway.
Right.
And when I
Right.
came, that
Yeah.
that
Okay.
solidified what
Took
she
it
needed to
solidified,
do.
took it over the top. All right.
Yeah. We dated for 4 months. I proposed after 4 months, right? We were engaged for 4 months till then we got married. And then 4 months after getting married, she was pregnant. So
Okay.
that's I told you, I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. Once I found what I wanted, I knew what I wanted to do, I had to do. And it was once I got married that I became more ambitious, and working jobs wasn't going to cut it. I was working in a warehouse at this time. I was making good money, but they were working me like a dog. And my wife is a nurse, so she makes good money. And I'm like, I gotta make more money. I want to make more than my wife, right? So that's when real estate came into play. First, it was peer support specialist, and then real estate. And real estate changed everything. Real
Gotcha.
estate
So
and me,
before you go into real estate, let me ask you this:
yeah,
who came first, Carlia or Carlos?
Carlia. Carlia
Carlia came
came.
first.
Yeah, Carlia is
Okay.
7. She's 7 now,
7.
and and
Okay.
and Carlos the third, Trey, he is 4. And the reason I
Okay.
named my son Carlos the third, I have a Carlos the second, I have a Carlos the third, is because
Right.
Carlos the second has 3 sons, and he didn't name any of them Carlos the third. So I
Gotcha.
said, okay, if I want my name to continue on, I need to do it
Right.
myself. So when my son
Right.
was born, I named him Carlos the third. So now
Right.
he can carry on, through his lineage, through his seeds.
Right.
But
I understand.
yeah,
I understand.
but
But the
children,
bloodline continues. But
yeah,
the
both
bloodline continues. You know what I'm
my
saying?
wife and I
That's right.
both wanted kids. I wanted kids
Mhm.
because I didn't get to raise my son, and I wanted an opportunity because I absolutely love kids, and I felt like, okay, I'm not too old if I get a younger wife, and my wife is like 6 years younger than me, so it was perfect,
Okay.
so yeah,
All right.
we and that's when real estate came in. But what was more impactful in my life was meeting this man who became my business mentor, my personal mentor. His name was Joseph L. Dudley, the first. So Mr. Dudley is the one who changed my mindset, and that's when I became a businessman. I was in real estate school when I met Mr. Dudley, and he's a multimillionaire. He owned a company called Dudley Products. They call it Dudley Q. All the women know Mr. Dudley and Dudley Hair Care Products. He
Okay.
had, he's done so much, man, and really for me, he inspired me, taught me the business, and like if it wasn't for Mr. Dudley, I would not be where I'm at now. He taught me that we are not job takers, we are job makers. And when he said that, it just hit me so hard that I'm like, I quit my job. And then at that point, I just went straight real estate. Real estate. I was working for a large company, and I went from company to company, and I learned the game. And like I say, I'm always going to be the boss. So I started my own brokerage, and it's called Versatile Real Estate Group. And I have agents under me now. I have 4 agents. And then I started my investment company, Versatile Investments. Me and my wife, we invest in properties, commercial and residential properties. Then I started Versatile Logistics, which was my trucking company that I started for my son to run. But that didn't work because my son ended up getting another girl pregnant, and that didn't work. And then I had Versatile Development Group, which is my 501c3 nonprofit that I started when I came home, but I just got my 501c3 and I'm about to push forward with that. And then I started Versatile Property Management, where I manage my properties and properties for other people.
Okay. Okay. Now, how old is your nonprofit? How old is the 501c3 right now?
I started it in 2016. I came home in
Okay.
2015. I found out how to start it, and I went down
Mhm.
to Raleigh and I started it 2016. Like I couldn't wait to get it started, and I came home with a belt that had versatile development on my belt. My celly made for me, and
Yeah.
so that was my brainchild from inside. So a lot of the
Okay.
things that I'm doing today started
Mhm.
with the thought inside of the prison walls.
Okay. So this is a full blown tax exempt nonprofit organization. You've gone through the waiting period, the whole 9 yards, everything. You're good to go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we need
It's
we need to, we really need to start shining some lights on that because people can make contributions, donations, in kind contributions to assist what it is that you have going on.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely looking for that, and what we do is we teach people to become more confident communicators. When I say
Hmm.
people, I'm talking about individuals coming home from incarceration. We work in
Right.
reentry, and we work with juveniles who may have been exposed to incarceration at some point or close to incarceration, meaning they might have a parent in there, or they might be a young child who's going having trouble in school. I don't like to call them at risk, right? But individuals who have demonstrated, issues, right? So I
Right.
help them to become more confident communicators. And I learned as a communicator, I'm not just a speaker. I don't just talk. I learned from Toastmasters, and I was a part of the Dudley Eagle Speakers Bureau. I was a part of
Right.
the Black Speakers Network. So I'm trained in communications, and I like to help people to become more confident communicators.
Okay. Well, let's communicate this message before we get off this thing. Whether you realize it or not, man, we've been talking for almost 2 hours.
I
Um,
figured we could go. I figured we could go.
no,
We
and I don't mind. I love the content because we're gonna chop this stuff up, repurpose you, then drop some jewels about your life and everything that got going on. But this is important
yeah
because people need to know how to get in contact with you. And I know you have www.carlosspeaks carlosparksspeaks.com. If I'm not,
yep
is that right? Carlos,
it is.
Carlos, Parks, Parks, speaks, speaks.com. Carlosspeaks.com. If you want to get in contact with my brother Carlos Parks, um, um, Instagram, IG, Parks.Carlos, and
Yep,
Facebook, Carlos Parks, right?
I have like four. So if you
The
I always use my
main
name.
ones you want them to reach out to you on, and
Yeah,
I want them to
Carlos.
go buy that book. I want them to go buy that book. So tell them,
Yeah.
give them the rundown right quick, Carlo.
But they can find the book on Amazon. It's the name of the book again is From Selling Bricks to Selling Bricks: A Story of Redemption. It's talking about me selling bricks of cocaine to me selling bricks now, figuratively, as in houses, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's the story of my life, right? So it's a very good read, and I do have the manual out, and the manual is for anybody who is coming home from prison. It's called 10 Steps to Help One Stay out of prison. If you have a loved one coming out of prison, if you have a loved one in prison, you want to help to start to change their mindset, do it now.
Right,
The manual is
right.
like $7. The book is I think 25 or 30 on Amazon. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And you can find me at like you say at parks.carlos. And my website for real estate is www.we'reversatile.com.
Okay. Um, you've gone through it. So if you had an opportunity to speak to your, because you started young. So I was gonna say your 18-year-old self, but
Yeah,
let's go back. Let's go back to your 14-year-old self when the shit was really popping off. You know
that's
what
when
I'm
I
saying? When you
started
really
selling
got
drugs,
introduced.
man.
Yeah, when you really got introduced into the game, what would you tell your 14-year-old self, knowing what you know now? And I'm not saying you're
14
trying to change anything, but what would
14
you tell
years
your
old is
14-year-old?
when I started hustling. And had
Yeah.
I not started hustling, I was an athlete, man. It was a good chance I might have been in the NFL. I was a monster
Right.
linebacker, wide receiver. After that, I never went to another practice. When I started
Mm.
hustling, that was a wrap. I never went to. I did everything, man. So
Yeah.
I would tell myself to don't fall for the okie doke, man. Avoid that peer pressure. Um, Stay focused. Keep doing what you're doing. Because I
Mhm.
had my trajectory was into something positive, man. I know it, man. I feel it, and really picking up that first $100 block was the worst decision of my life. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do have a question, and this is more comical than anything. And
Okay.
you kind of answered it, but was it that butter? Was y'all working with that
Oh
butter?
yeah. Now listen, we had what they call hard white, right? We had that hard white,
Okay.
that butter,
Yeah.
and at the time
Yeah.
we had something called Bobby Brown. When that Bobby Brown was out, man, listen,
Come
the
on.
Bobby Brown was so raw. You had people was soaking their stuff in Pepsi Cola to make it look like
Stop.
Bobby Brown,
Make,
just to
make,
trick people. Like that, I got that Bobby Brown, but really they done soaked it in cola.
kind of
It was
Episode, all
really
kind of
doing
shit
that.
rolled up on that shit.
Yeah, but yeah, man.
Oh
But
man, that's
that
hilarious.
was that was that
I'm
was
just being
another
funny,
era,
man.
man. But shout out to
Yeah.
Rick, man. Like Rick is
Yeah.
like a big brother to me, man. Part of the Rick Ross Millionaires Club, man.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Rick is always a phone call away. And that's one thing about Rick, right? He gives back, right? He knows what he did to his community, and now
Right.
what he's trying to do is not just rectify it, but make his community rich. So shout out to
That's right.
Rick and shout out to Dre. I gotta shout out my homeboy Dre because
Okay.
Dre is the plug for me, and everybody I know through Dre. I know you, I know Rick, I know Marv.
Right.
Everybody I know through Dre. If it wasn't for Dre, so Dre is like he likes to connect and connect people with each other, man. That's what he
That's
does.
right. That's right.
Super humble. He's super humble
Hmm.
about it. He never throws it in your face, man. So I gotta shout my
Hmm.
little homie out.
Yes, indeed. And he's Drake introduced me to Shay
Wow,
Williams
yeah,
and the
and
family.
you just
You
had
know,
Shay last week, didn't you?
yeah, we had Shay last week.
Yeah,
And I don't want to misrepresent it because Dre works real heavy with Real Records, but I know that he's working with them boys with Empire.
yeah,
Is
yeah,
it Empire? If I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Empire
Um,
45, King and them.
Empire 45, yeah. And just to now that we didn't kind of segued into that, you turned me on to BMF Wavy the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
day.
That's my guy, man. That's my guy.
Okay, so talk to me about what BMF Wavy got going on, man, and how's he
So
doing before we get
so
off
so
this thing?
Wavy's doing good, man. Wavy is like the plug of all plugs. Wavy knows everybody. He
Mhm.
has a water brand he's selling right now, right? It's called
Okay,
Misty Springs. So yeah, they're pushing that Misty Springs now. They're partnering with my guy from Live Alkaline Water to bring Misty Springs alkaline. So that's what Wavy's
okay,
doing now. He's on his health tip. He's keeping his spirits good. He's in the church on Sundays, man. So yeah, Wavy is he's BMF, but he's not like the old BMF. He's
right.
part
I
of the old
understand.
BMF, but
Yeah,
Wavy's been everywhere. Wavy was with 50 at one point. He was with Snoop. He's been in the game since they had street teams. And
right,
and
right.
yeah,
And
man,
so
and
we need to lock that in. We said we was gonna get him on Industry Talk one of these days, man, and work that
yeah,
schedule. I just hadn't, me, just like I told him, man. I'm not gonna call you without my man Carlos on the phone because that's who plugged us. That's just how I
yeah,
move. So whenever we make that connection, we'll circle back to that and make that happen. But as long as he's doing well, man, and he's still making his moves, I'm good. I'm happy to hear about that water situation. That's pretty
oh
tight
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. That's major.
Yeah.
That's major.
Yeah, that is. That is. So now I've asked you about um, what you tell your 14-year-old self. I
Okay.
need to know Carlos Parks's three major influences in his life.
Mm,
And they could be dead, they could be alive. You already told me that your superhero was your pops, but I need three major influences in Carlos Parks's life in terms of where he's been and how he's gotten to where he is right now. And you said Mr. Dudley was one of them. So let's
Yeah.
leave
Oh,
Dudley
without
off
a
the
doubt.
list.
Without a doubt. So I will never have a discussion about myself with anybody without bringing up Mr. Dudley, because he was the
Yeah.
same way with his mentor was HB Fuller. So whenever Mr. Dudley spoke, and he's given over 30,000 speeches, so every
Right.
time he spoke, he made sure he brought up Mr. HB Fuller. So every time I
Okay.
talk, I bring up Mr. Dudley every time,
Right.
right? Without
Okay.
fail. So by far, he had the most impact on me. And then, like you said, my father, right? My father was super, super impactful in my life. And the third person I'm gonna have to say was Dick Parks, and that was my grandfather. And that's somebody I can't talk about my grandfather, right? Because my
Okay.
grandfather was that big in my life, and we didn't touch on that. But my grandfather is like, he is, I can't even really even describe how important my grandfather was to me. Like I said, my
Right.
father was my superhero, not like my grandfather. My
Okay.
grandfather was really, really my superhero. And
Okay.
he was a farmer. I was on a farm every year up until maybe 13 years old. Every summer, my mother sent me to Goldsboro, well, to Seven Springs, to go work on the farm. And my grandfather was the one who instilled deep masculine principles in me, right? Like I'm super militant and I'm super masculine. And that comes from my family and my Parks. And we have a heavy concentration of men, right? So it's a lot of testosterone. I got a lot of uncles, and we are super manly men. That's one thing about it, and it all stems from my grandfather. My grandfather
Okay.
he was the type of person you could just see him just picking up hot coals with his bare hands. That's it seems like he just was like unreal to me, right? So yeah, my grandfather, even more so than Mr. Dudley, would be my grandfather.
Okay. So you say you went to the farm. What kind of vegetation? What kind of farming y'all was doing? Was this
Oh, you already know, man. You from
livestock? Was
Mississippi. You from
it,
Mississippi,
yeah,
man.
that's why I'm
Listen,
asking.
man.
That's why.
I pick tobacco. I pick tobacco every year.
Okay. Okay.
Cucumbers. Like I never did cotton. We ain't have cotton, but
Hmm.
my grandfather, he said he seeded into soybeans,
Yeah.
strawberries,
Mhm.
corn, of course, everything, man. Like my grandfather, he
Yeah.
was a pig farmer. He didn't have
Yeah.
cows. He had a bunch of
Right.
pigs.
Yeah.
So
And cutting
that was the
tobacco
type.
wasn't easy, man. Cutting
No,
tobacco
no,
wasn't
no,
easy.
no, no. Tobacco was it was a beast, but that cucumbers, man, nothing like
Right.
them long cucumber lines.
Right.
So yeah. And I learned my entrepreneurship from my grandfather.
Okay.
He took us to go sell the tobacco in Raleigh. He took us to Mount Olive pickle plant when he went to go sell his cucumbers. So we learned all
Right.
this stuff from watching him, from watching my grandfather. That's what made me want to be a boss,
Yeah.
because my grandfather didn't answer to anyone. He was his
It was
own man.
always instilled. It
He
was
was
always
always his own
instilled.
man. He always had
Yeah.
people working for him. So
Okay.
these are the things that were instilled in me early from my grandfather,
Mhm.
even before Mr. Dudley brought out something in me that was already there, and
Right.
it came from my grandfather. So that's
Mhm.
why I was always a leader. That's why
Okay.
I've always been a leader, man. Like
Mhm.
I've always been a leader, always,
I
man.
got
You
So
know,
let's do this, Carlos. Let's do this
yeah,
because I know you working real heavy. You tapped on it a little bit, but you didn't really go a deep dive into it. Fifth Son,
yeah,
the television network.
okay.
Give us a little background on that. Give us a little insight on the station that you're working with, the live programming that you guys are doing over there. Give us a little insight.
All right. So I met Dr. Larry Monk, who is the founder of Fifth Sun TV. He's a professor at Wesleyan College in North Carolina. I don't know what city Wesleyan is in, but he is the founder. And I met him at a book signing, a book event, an author event. So it was a bunch of authors there, and we chopped it up, and we were very similar in our thought process. We thought a lot alike, right? He always says I'm like a younger version of him. He's like 70 something years old, and um, he told me about this television network he was working on, and I had never heard anybody speak about a network, right? Not a
Right.
channel, a station, a network. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, tell me more about this. And he was telling me more. And you know, I decided I wanted to be a part of that. And I was just coming off of a stint. I had a radio show with WDBR Media, right, out of Charlotte. And I had all of this footage and that I had gotten from my radio show. That's when I interviewed Rick and all these other guys, is when I had my radio show.
Okay.
But when he was telling me about that, I was like, well, how can I partner with you? How can I help you? And I'm a problem solver, right? I have a high IQ, right? So I'm a consummate problem solver. Whenever someone has an issue, they come to me because I like to come up with solutions. For me, it's like a puzzle, right? And when he told me what his problem was, I figured out what he needed to do. And I told him, I said, well, listen, you need content. There's content out there readily available, right? You have
Right.
content creator. Everybody and their mother got content creator under their name on Instagram, on Facebook. Everybody think they're a content creator, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's why I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, how about we give these content creators an opportunity to show what they can do? You have a network, you lack material. He needs content. We can
Right.
find content. So I convinced him to kind of change the format of the network to accept content creators, which is why we have podcasts on our network now. We have podcasts, we have comedy, we have faith-based stuff, you know, anything, man. And if you have an idea, if you are a content creator, if you can produce your own stuff, we have a space for you on Fifth Sun TV. And this is how I got the role of the uh, let me read my role, right? Director of communications, right?
Okay.
I'm the director of
Oh,
communications because I love to talk and I'm a trained communicator. So he wanted me to help with spreading the story. And that's, you know, that's what I do. This is Fifth Sun TV. And I have 3 programs on the network. I created my own content. I created my own programs. I have a program called Carlos Parks Presents Unsigned, where I feature unsigned artists. I feature their work. I interview them. I have Carlos Parks. And I have a show called Bully Business, which is about bullies, because there's nothing on TV about bullies, and I learned a lot about bullies and how big it was. So I started to go filming these bully shows,
right.
and that developed into a program, right? And I have
Yeah.
another show on there. Um,
And I don't
I
know how
forgot.
y'all doing it out there in your area, out there in Jamestown, North
Yeah.
Carolina. But guess what? Right here in Mississippi, we got some of the best bullies you ever want to see now. You know what I
Well,
mean?
hook me up with them.
I don't want to bring my stock of American bullies out. You know what
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean?
listen,
Shit,
I got a
man.
network for them. I got the show. I got if they like that, we can put them on Bully
Yeah,
Business TV. We want
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I
Now,
do.
come on, man. It's Mississippi, man. We breed hog dogs, bro. Stop.
Yeah, well, I want them,
This is pay
and we
for
got
that,
Frenchies
man.
too. We got Frenchies on there. When I go to these bully shows, they got these little Frenchies. They got the bullies. They got the English
Yeah,
bulldogs. They show a little bit of
yeah.
everything. The focus is bullies, but they do
Right,
have best in show, and they got different breeds. And for that, they have the
right.
all breeds competition. So yeah, the
Okay,
show is called
okay.
Bully Business. But if you're a dog enthusiast, please
Yeah,
look at Bully Business TV, and it's on Roku TV. It's on. If you go to Roku, you download Fifth Sun TV, and you'll see this little logo pop up over on the right. Fifth Sun TV, SUN, and it'll pop only
right.
on Roku. We're not on Fire Stick yet.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's what's up,
Yeah,
man. So look, man, it's been fun, bro. It's been
yeah,
interesting, and I know you and me. We've been back and forth trying to make the connection, and we finally circled all the way around. I know it took uh it took our partner Marvin, not Marvin. I'm talking about Marvin.
Melvin.
Melvin Farmer. It took our
Yeah,
partner Melvin Farmer to give you a little background about who I was.
yeah. Nah. I think it was Dre, man. No,
It was Dre.
Melvin. Yeah, it was Melvin.
That's
Melvin told me.
Melvin.
Yeah,
That's
it was
Melvin.
Melvin who finally let me know who Big G was, right? Yeah, Melvin, he definitely schooled me, right?
So I'm glad we locked in. I'm glad we are making communication and the network is getting stronger. And we definitely need to get you to Mississippi with your books. Um, and of course, whenever Rick is coming to the area with his book tour, hey, it's really I need to get you linked up with my partner Keith Wallace because he's about to come out with his books as well. So it's just a coalition of individuals that really have some great stories that they're putting into audible form, into readable formats, just
Yeah.
like Blood Raw out of Florida as well. You know what I mean? He has his
Okay.
books that are out there right now too. So we have a collective of individuals that have gone through it, man. You know what I'm saying? And your story is it stands out just like all the others that are out there, from bricks to bricks. You know what I'm saying? From selling bricks to selling bricks. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful concept that we need to get out there. You hit on two individuals that you want to put some energy behind. Give me those two names, Brother Peebles and D'Lo. Give me
Ken,
the full names again.
Kenneth D'Angelo Thomas. These guys are out of
Kenneth
Nashville,
D'Angelo
Tennessee,
Thomas,
and
okay,
Rivera Peoples.
and
Rivera
Rivera
Peoples.
Peebles.
Yep, they're out of Nashville,
Man,
Tennessee.
look, those are some phenomenal things to get behind and push. We gotta do this more often, so that we can keep people abreast of what you have going on. Now we've given them the backstory. They got to go buy the book if
Yeah,
they want
yeah,
the whole
yeah,
story. We
yeah.
can't just give it to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we they got to go buy the book, man.
Well, I want to
And
give
whether
you
you
your
read,
I want to give you your flowers real quick, right? I really feel like
okay,
it's important that we give people their flowers, right? And I give you,
uh,
and you probably don't even know why, but it's because you are this is a podcast this highlighting positivity as
right,
opposed to taking advantage of negativity to boost ratings, right?
right,
And
that's right.
I see it every day. They're giving these clowns an audience, right? And it's
Yeah,
because of some of the stuff that they say, some of the vitriol that spews from their mouths, right? That's the
right.
reason why they're getting, access to these larger platforms, right? And I'm not going to say any of the people's names who take advantage of these clowns and put these clowns on here, but I commend you because you always have a positive guest, and you don't go into dirty and muddy waters, right? I really
No,
commend you
no.
for that.
But you know what that is, Carlo?
What's that?
Because I've been there, bro.
Okay.
I mean, I don't sit there and talk about my life and my story, because it's not real relevant in terms of what we're trying to get accomplished. I mean, I talk about my sons and my wife and their great accomplishments every day, twice on Tuesday. But
Yeah.
my road wasn't always that that smooth in terms
Yeah.
of how I came to where I am. So I know the shit that people like us have gone through. I was
Yeah.
there. I was
Yeah.
I was in the midst of it, so I can talk about these things because I've experienced it. But I just don't want to shine a light on it. I could sit there and I could talk to you about horror stories that you went through in prison. Why? What the hell for? I don't want you to relive
Exactly.
that goddamn
That's not
trauma.
helping anybody.
That's not helping nobody. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
That's not even good conversation. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Yeah.
want to know about you having to stab up niggas in prison. No, for
Yeah.
what? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to know what the experience is like behind the wall. For
Yeah.
what? That's not what we're trying to push to our people. But the reality is it happens. Now, what's the medium for me with that? Yes, I have a lot of my friends, a lot of my partners that have either gone through it or are in it right now going through it. But I have to be that safe space to where, man, we can have open conversation. Just like my partners that come back from the military that have gone to war. You know what I'm saying? And they have PTSD from bullets whizzing by their ass, you know what I'm saying, and facing near
Yeah.
death situations. Same thing like
Hmm.
with incarceration. You know, I mean, in you're an indentured servant at that point. You're a slave. And so now to deal with that mental anguish, and to come out of prison and okay, how do I make this adjustment? Because a lot of us go right back because we don't know how to make that adjustment. So
Yeah.
your story, bro, your testimony, the things that you've gone through, and you don't sit there and speak on it in a braggadocious way. Yeah, I know you was that nigga in NC. You know what I'm saying? We've had these conversations. People didn't call me and told me about it. I know the truth about you, right? But at the same time, you don't sit there and have Carlos Parks talking about his life like that. No, you're talking about how to motivate, how
Yeah.
to teach you how to become a broker, in the real estate game, how to sit there and really do the trucking business, getting your CDLs and doing positive things. So That's the shit that motivates me, bro. That's the
Yeah,
things that motivates me, and I appreciate the flowers and the whole 9 yards. But I'm looking at you guys like, man, most people would have folded, my guy. Most
yeah,
people do fold. You're living in a very small percentage of individuals that get out of prison, out of federal prison, and have changed their lives and steady walking that path.
yeah,
Because a lot of people be on that bullshit. Man, I'm doing it, and they talking it like they walking the clean path, but really they still got their toes in it in some kind of way, shape,
yeah,
form, or fashion.
yeah. You're right.
And
Yeah,
that's the bullshit. You can see through that. We all can see through that shit.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So,
yeah,
because we didn't been there, man, nigga, you talking that bullshit. I listen to you, but I mean, that's the goddamn street talk. I don't want to hear that. But
yeah.
you have transcended, my brother, and that's the stories that I want to expose. That's the stuff. Yeah, I done been through it, and a young kid out there can sit back and be like, "Damn, man, I was just like Mr. Carlos." You know what I'm saying? And I learned some lessons, some valuable lessons, because I've seen where he was at the point to where he could have been facing death. He got stabbed up when he was 16, got sent away to go live with his dad, and then came back and was fighting the system. Didn't want to be under a military household. Pops was too strict. Get back to mom. Now I'm back doing the same shit. So that's a story to be like, okay, how do I make the right decision as a young man, knowing that I saw Carlos go through the same thing?
Yeah.
How do I make that adjustment in my life so I don't go down this road? And at the end of the day, shit, I done built myself up to the point to where I'm seeing $100,000, week to week to week, and then it's all taken away because shit, I got thrown away on a gun charge. Then the feds come get me with another charge, and now I'm sitting here for 17 years, facing a 30-year bid. But I have to fight my way out of fucking prison.
Yeah.
That's not an easy story, Carlos.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
You're
not
right.
an easy. I mean, you say it like it ain't nothing to it because you lived it, right? But that's not an easy story, man. And so once people begin to accept and know that, bro, ain't nothing fantastic or beautiful about going to jail. Ain't nothing
Nothing.
like you said, man. You got goddamn dick swinging, motherfucking testosterone. I want to sit there and be in this shit, goddamn stinking asses and feet. Come on, man, really,
Nah. Nah.
really.
No way to
So
glorify it. There's no way to
that's right.
glorify
There's
that.
no way to glorify that. But we
Yeah.
have people that come out and have conversations and be like, man, this is the best thing since sliced bread. No, the fuck it ain't.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's not. Let's be real. Let's be honest about this shit. And if a motherfucker sit there and tell you that prison is fun, he a goddamn lie.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing fun about it. No
Nothing.
parts to it. You know what I'm saying? From
Yeah.
intake to processing the goddamn throwing your ass in the goddamn cell. Nothing about it. And then if you ain't got nobody on the outside that can goddamn put nothing on your books, shit, you ain't gonna see commissary. There ain't nothing extra. So now you
Nah.
gotta fight for your life in prison.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's
So they
nothing
don't tell
about
you,
that.
they don't talk about that parts of it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody be like, oh man, it's cool. We had a good time, man. We out here on the yard living way. Man, please.
That's why I
Ain't
said
nothing
I
like
was
breathing.
not going back.
Right,
Not going
right.
back.
Ain't nothing like breathing
Yeah.
free air. And this has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the mindset of, oh man, yeah, that nigga tell. Nah, I done been faced with. I ain't told on that nigga.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I know
Yeah.
goddamn well, if I do the crime, I'll do my time.
Yeah.
I get that. I know that. I come from that ilk. But that's not saying that that's where I want to fucking be.
Yeah. Nah. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be in
That's
that
right. And
position.
you don't expect that part of it in the game because you ain't even thinking about, oh man, you know what I'm saying, I can get jammed up. But you don't know what the next nigga is getting into, or what kind of shit didn't happen, or he didn't got fooped, or whatever the case may be. And now your same people in your circle that ain't telling you the truth about the shit that's going on in their life got you fucked up in the pinch.
And let me say this before in part, it's gonna be someone close to you to tell on you.
Yes, that's
People
right.
who don't know you can't tell on you.
They can't tell
It
on you.
has to
They can't
be
say a damn thing
someone.
about you.
It's always like everybody in the feds got a story about their loved one, their family
Right,
member.
right.
Somebody close to them is the one that
That's
got
right.
them. Look at
Because this
these
ain't
rappers.
fucking TV.
What's this
This ain't
rapper
30
just got
minute
busted?
sitcoms.
Like the boy just got
Yeah,
busted, little Dirk, young Dirk or whatever his name is.
yeah, yeah.
Look what happened to him. It was one of his men, close
One of
man.
his people.
His dude just came home. Dirk gave him 50,000. Like this, how close
Yeah,
he was, and
right,
this
right.
dude betrayed him. It has to
Yeah,
be. So the feds are always going to go to someone close to you when they're trying to get you. Keep that in mind. I don't know who watching us, who need to hear this, but it's somebody beside you right now that's going to tell on you. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Somebody
I ain't
knows
have an
you.
enemy. None of my enemies told on me because my enemies don't know how I move. It's your friends that's going to tell on you, man.
That's right.
Keep that in mind. It's not the ops.
Man.
The ops ain't going to get you locked up.
That's right. So that's why, Carlos, I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate your story. Thank you for coming on and being transparent about the things that you've gone through. This is like I said, we got to keep this going so that we can actually play our part with these youth that are coming up in this generation, in this day and age. But like I talked to Brother Tim's earlier today, we got to have that economic piece. And so becoming a realtor or becoming a CDL driver, becoming a boss and knowing how to be a real entrepreneur. And even if you have to work for someone to the point to where it's okay, now I'm going to do my own thing, make that happen. But learn the lessons and take the steps to doing it the right way. That's the important part about it. And your story is exemplary of that. You've displayed that, and all I can do is show you my appreciation, my gratitude. Thank you for coming on, Carlos. We're gonna have you back, Brother Parks, and we need to really talk about all of the individuals and things that you have going on a regular basis over there in North Carolina to shine a really good light on this on your situation, because we have it to do it. The Boss Talk Network, Boss Talk Podcast 101, Boss Talk Podcast 101 Prime Time is that network. You know how powerful the Freeway Network is with the Ross franchise. I mean, we global. You know, there's nothing that can stand in our way with making or connecting the dots and making the motion and moves that we can to change our situation for the better. So I know I've been on my soapbox for a minute. I didn't mean to do that. And I'm going to let you close it out. Give me your last motivational word for our guests and give it to them, man. Give me something good.
Words I live by, man. This is an easy one for me, man. Never put off for tomorrow what you can do today.
Okay.
That's how I live.
Okay. Never put off tomorrow what you could do today. So what he's saying, people, get to it. You ain't got no excuses.
Stop procrastinating.
You ain't got no excuses. Stop procrastinating. Much love to you, man, and I appreciate you, my brother, and thank you for joining us today.
All right, peace.
Peace. You've been locked into another great episode of Primetime Pod. Major salute to our guest, and remember, ain't no time like prime time. This is your main man, Big G, with Industry Talk, and remember to like, share, and subscribe to our network, Primetime Pod. And as always, beautiful people, it's about health, wealth, and wellness.
Primetime Pod. Make sure you check it out.
Wow, why the fuck you think he missing? He say that. Now I'm not trying to get a little messy with you.
Time is money.
They go trap.